Good Monday morning and welcome back to the Now Morning Show, where this morning, as promised, the TTPS joins us to take a bite out of crime. How we're doing that is with Inspector Michelle Lewis, who will be focusing specifically on the offense of receiving stolen goods. So good morning and welcome back, Inspector.
Good morning to you and all your listening and viewing audience.
Always a pleasure
It's good to be here as usual. It's good to have Trinidad and Tobago Police Service on the TTT Now program.
I love that energy.
Yes.
Because we have so much we need to cover, since this is something that a lot of people may have fallen prey to. But to begin, let's give them the parameters, if you will. The act that governs the receiving of stolen goods offense.
Right, so it is the Larceny Act, Chapter 11 of 12. So let us first look at what is an item that can be stolen. So the intent really by the person is to permanently deprive someone of an item, a good or property, right? So that it is not like where someone is borrowing an item for a period of time with the intent of giving it back to the owner.
Right.
When you think about receiving goods, receiving stolen item or property, the intent is to permanently deprive the person. So you know for a fact that the person not getting it back.
Right.
Right? And so when you look at the Larceny Act, Chapter 11 of 12, it speaks of what is stealing, larceny, and robbery. But we want to look particularly, as you said, in relation to receiving stolen goods. So when you look at the Act in particular, right, and we can look at what the Act says in relation to it. So the Act says, any person who receives any property knowing the same to have been stolen or obtained in any way whatsoever, under circumstances which amount to an indictable offense, is guilty to imprisonment to 10 years. So we have in Trinidad and Tobago a culture where persons are of the opinion that I didn't thief it. So because I didn't thief it, I can't be held culpable for any offense. We can go further and say that persons are receiving receipts for items that were stolen. So that, for example, your television gone bad.
Right.
You're not going to pay $6,000 for a new TV. You know your neighbor who is a bandit or a thief or somebody who touches and steals. And so you tell the person looking for a TV, and that person brings a 65-inch television to you and asks you to give them $1,000 for it. Now you know to yourself that that item is not worth $1,000.
Right.
Even if you know the person is not a thief. But this person has this item that they're selling, a partner, a brethren, a friend, selling this item and they're getting a receipt. That does not exonerate you from being charged for the offense of receiving goods or receiving stolen items. So we want to sensitize the public.
Right.
That you might be thinking and saying to yourself that I am not doing anything wrong because I am not the thief. But you're actually a thief, even though you obtained the good with a receipt.
I understand that part, because a receipt book can be acquired by anyone.
By anyone.
But what if you are purchasing from someone that you don't know for a fact, as you exemplified, touchy or steals? They just have an item that they're trying to get off their hands. You're none the wiser. How do we prove that it's someone that you knew, or rather that you were aware that it is a stolen good?
So when I am looking to purchase an item, I will do some checking online, in a store, I'll check out. And you will have a general idea of what the cost of an item will be. So that when someone comes around to you, selling it via online or some other means, and produces an item for sale at a price that you know cannot be so, or you know that the person does not have the item in a bona fide way, meaning that the person did not travel to the States and bring back like some items and they sell it. Because we know some people do that, you know, to help, right? But you know the person does not have a store or anything like that. And you are of the opinion that this doesn't seem right. We want to advise that if it doesn't feel right, then don't do it.
It probably isn't.
Because more than likely, it is an offense and you can be charged.
So let's get into the charge then. What is that charge once more? The time and
so it has, for example, where the person would receive the item. So if you receive a good in Trinidad and Tobago, you can be charged as an indictable offense. And an indictable offence is one that is heard before a judge and a jury.
Right.
So you know that it is not a small offence, it is not a minor crime. It is considered a serious offence. And then you have the aspect of the law that deals with receiving goods outside of Trinidad and Tobago. So that even though the item would have been stolen in another country and shipped to Trinidad, you can also be charged and sentenced to 7 years imprisonment on indictment. So these are serious offences. And we have in a culture in Trinidad and Tobago now where persons are receiving items quietly and thinking that it is the correct thing to do. We really want to warn the public that it is not the correct thing to do. For example, someone comes around selling gold. You know that this person is not an authorized jeweler according to the Act. But you purchase the gold because you're getting it at a nice price. That gold was stolen. Somebody was permanently deprived of an item that they worked hard for, and now you're coming and purchasing it on the side, and then you're going to take it by a jeweler to get it. That is an offense. So we have a lot of young persons engaged, a lot of parents engaged in criminal activities in the eyes of their children. And when children and young people and persons in the community see you doing something like this, they think that it is okay to do. So as a member of the public, we want you to help build Trinidad and Tobago, help build the community. And by doing items, doing things contrary to the law, would cause you to break down the society, break down the fabric of integrity that we want to see in Trinidad. We are going to celebrate, how many years? 61 years independence as a nation. And so we must be in a position as persons born here, persons who choose to come here, to live here, to build up Trinidad and Tobago, and to abide by the laws of Trinidad and Tobago.
Completely agreed. Now, you gave the example of one that perhaps would have resonated with a lot of persons, not buying of the gold from someone you know is not a jeweler. And even the fact that a lot of people dismiss there's a license to sell precious metals and stone that that person obviously doesn't have. Can we think of some more, statistically speaking, common instances where persons may purchase things that are stolen and think less of it?
Well, of course, it's a cell phone.
Right.
So you know very well that a Samsung, is it a Z?
One of the
6
letters are
flip.
the alphabet.
You know it is not worth $800 TT, but someone comes around selling that type of cell phone, and you purchase and think you get a deal. So with every product, there is a serial number that goes with it. And this is why we encourage members of the public to report when a crime happens to you, because it may not be solved right away. But sometime in the future, when we check the data, because we would have collected it on our R-form and that kind of thing, when we check the data and we check items that come to us, we realize that it is linked to a crime that happened 6 months ago. You may not hear about it in the public, but the item, the offense was solved. And so when you report that your phone was stolen and these are the serial numbers, whenever that item comes into possession of police or under any type of circumstances, we will be able to say that, yes, that was a stolen item.
Makes sense. Now, there are a host of others I'm sure you can list, but let's get into some tips on how we as citizens can mitigate being a part of that and ending up on the wrong side of crime. What should we look for, apart from that sneaky price that would indicate to us this might be something we don't want to purchase?
Right, so we want to encourage you as law-abiding citizens to do your due diligence, to check, double check, triple check to make sure that the item that you're buying is not an item that was stolen. Remember that in cases like this, the intent is to permanently deprive the owner, and so you're willing to exchange money for this good or property. So, for example, if you have a suspicion that this is an item that is stolen, you can report it to the police. So the law provides that you can report such matter to the police. And in the cases where persons are actually engaged in those activities where you actually purchase the item, knowing it to be stolen or suspect it to be stolen, the right of the police is that we can arrest you without a warrant. So that, so it is an indictable offense. You can be arrested without a warrant. So it is a very serious matter. So it is important for you as an adult to do your due diligence to ensure that the item, so if you have any type of suspicion that it may not be, then leave it alone.
Good advice.
And if it is that the person cannot show proof that this is my item that I have, be it a cell phone that they purchased already and they now want to sell it over to buy a new model, then let that person produce to you a receipt showing that that person was the owner prior.
Some good tips there, and I'm sure we can get more of them on the police website itself. So as always, we encourage persons viewing to tune in, not just in our morning show, but all other programming that the TTPS join us on. Check their Facebook, Instagram, and website, and continue to pay attention to that gut instinct that tells you you do not want to be on the wrong side of the law.
Correct.
Thank you very much, Inspector Lewis, for joining us, as always, giving us some insightful information that we can use to continue to weave the fabric together.
Continue. Thank you so much.
Though, until she joins us again, guys, we will have much more information for you on other matters that you want to add, but your birthdays are next, so stick around. The Now Morning Show returns after these messages.